Hey you all, my name's Adam Conrod. We're doing this video in regards of Premier Tim Houston, in regards of his trip to Washington with the other premiers across Canada, in regards of the tariffs that United States President Donald Trump had proposed, made threats of putting on in the direction of Canada. Now, I understand the attempts that Premier Tim Houston and the rest of the premiers of Nova Scotia had went down to the United States, down to Washington, trying to resolve the situation with President Donald Trump, and it went unsuccessful. And here's the concerns, what's been going on over the years, what I noticed with Nova Scotia and Canada, even the very people who we've been electing. Far too long, Canada, Nova Scotia have been relying on other provinces, other countries, been relying on people who they should not have been relying on when they should have been doing things themselves. Not contracting manufacturing jobs, shipped it overseas, let this foreign bunch of people work for $2 an hour in unsafe working conditions, all this stuff. Not jeopardizing like our health care like they did before. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, during the pandemic, he had to go overseas to have the vaccination created, because when Prime Minister Stephen Harper was in power, according to the federal government, that Prime Minister Stephen Harper had contracted the certain science technicians that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau needed to create the vaccinations was overseas. And again, Canada and Nova Scotia relying on other countries when they should be doing things themselves. Here's the thing. Let's go right off the bat with Donald Trump. Here's the thing, Tim, what you have to realize, what you're not doing. When you got a bunch of premiers across Canada going to the President of the United States, Donald Trump has no clue who you guys are. He more than likely looked at you guys, he's just probably scratched his head, lost, dumbfounded. But I'm saying, what's a premier? A governor of a state, nonetheless. If Canada was part of the United States, then the premier of Nova Scotia would be the governor of Nova Scotia, pretty much. One way or the other, doesn't matter. This is my opinion. One way or the other, it doesn't matter what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau or any Liberal candidate just running in this Liberal leadership race, whoever wins it, or even Pierre Poilievre, it doesn't matter what any of them propose. It's not going to be good enough. Trump is going to stick with these tariffs one way or the other, and it doesn't matter. It's about dominance, power, greed, ignorance, and proving to the whole country of Canada, you guys are complete, what's the word, incompetence. Stupid people is a thing what Donald Trump used in the past, which I did in the past. Stupid people is exactly the group of people that Canadians across the country of Canada, including Nova Scotia, have been electing throughout the years. Why would you contract your good paying employment out so your own people go jobless? They got no jobs. Look at the state of Nova Scotia. There's no good paying jobs in Nova Scotia. It's all contracted out. No job security, no health benefits, no nothing. Not even a retirement pension. What kind of a good job are these premiers saying that they did for Nova Scotia? They're creating more. We're back in Nova Scotia up so far from where it should be. It's disgraceful. When Stephen McNeil was premier, he should have been a one-term premier only, not a two-term premier. I mean, even Tim Houston, he was a one-term premier, not a two-term premier. I mean, you look at how this November's provincial election went by. They were talking about absolutely nothing that interested Nova Scotia. They were talking about eliminating the bridge tolls at the McCain-McDonald Bridge. Not talking about how to improve healthcare. Not talking about how can we bring better employment back to our province. Not talking about how to the better look after Nova Scotians is all about replacing the toll booths for the McDonald Bridge. Nobody cared about that. No care, none whatsoever. Nobody cared about the election. None of the candidates anybody was interested in. Look at my MLA, Kent Smith, a complete idiot. The man's a dickhead. Look at him. And you're telling me to defend this here? Tim, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not backing you up, and I'm not going to help you because I'm not voting for your government, because every government official that Nova Scotia has been electing should never have been elected in the first place, and the only thing that they've been doing was posing at risk to Nova Scotia and their livelihoods and everything what they worked their rear ends off for. I lived in Nova Scotia my entire life, and I'm going to tell you something. When I worked here in Nova Scotia, I never been so insulted in all my life. Now, I'll ask you Nova Scotians right now, all you Nova Scotians, I'm going to ask you a question right here. When was the last time when you worked for an employer and they said, good job, come back tomorrow, good job? And when was the last time when they had appreciation thing for you? I don't know anything at all. I don't know a plaque for some like 5-10 year service. You don't see that too often at all here anymore. There's no appreciation for the hard work that Nova Scotians do in this province. You look at the awards that the province hands people. Did you not ever notice how these volunteers are often connected to political parties, or they're connected to a politician for to get awarded? Because I knew a woman who'd been working for the Nova Scotia Cancer Society for 20 some odd years, walking all these long roads, walking up down these long driveways, talking to these, problematic people, good people. All these people got a long story to tell, Some people say, unfortunately, I got no money to fund the Nova Scotia Cancer Society. Not once did the Nova Scotia government or even any of her MLAs call this woman in and say, how about that we reward you for that hard work that you did for the Nova Scotia Cancer Society? Not once. And the only thing that they've been doing was nominating and appointing their buddies who've been connected to whatever political party that they're affiliated with. And that's the only thing that you've been seeing. Now, here's Nova Scotia's failing health care. Didn't somebody in Halifax, was it the infirmary? I'm still trying to read up on this story. I'm concerned. A patient, was it a mentally ill patient, walked into the Halifax infirmary and he had a knife and he started stabbing all the nursing staff for some unknown reason. I asked a question to the Minister of Health. Now, guess what? She wouldn't answer. She wouldn't even reply. I asked the Minister of Health, when a person has been arrested under the Hospital Act law, by law, arrested or not, the accused, the person, does not have to talk to police, nursing staff, or the Nova Scotia mental health crisis. Nobody at all. And they can request a lawyer to be present during questioning. Now, my question to the Minister of Health was, did this person say, I'm not talking to all of these parties, and did the police back off? Because here's the thing. This is the thing that's been happening with in this area right here. Police been going to people's doors saying that so-and-so is sick when they're not. Trying to intimidate them, which is illegal. Saying that you have to talk to us, give us this information, what we're looking for, or we're going to arrest you. That's illegal. If a person does not want to talk to police, nursing staff, or the Nova Scotia mobile health crises, they don't have to. And my question, again, to the Minister of Health was, why is there no law firm, Nova Scotia Legal Aid, based inside these mental institutions, like the Abbey Lane building in Halifax, at the infirmary in the emergency room? Is there a law firm for a patient to reach out to if they rather talk to a lawyer instead of talk to the investigators, including the health and nursing staff? The very law itself is violating the law, and that has to be dealt with. Now, back to the tariffs. We're going to talk about the tariffs. Now, what's his name? Tim Houston. When you went to Washington, you're on the taxpayer's expense, obviously. Obviously, you made attempts to Donald Trump about try to get him to back down from these 25% tariff threats. But the question is, Tim, I'm going to ask you this question right now. Did you at any time call, email, reach out to King Charles? It's my understanding that King Charles had denied the United States and Canada becoming one because the people of Canada had stated no to that, including myself. And my question to you, Tim, did you turn to King Charles for assistance? Because here's the thing. Look at the Halifax Harbor, Pictou County Harbor. I don't know the name of the Pictou County Harbor. I just call it the Pictou County Harbor. Cape Breton in the Halifax Harbor. Back in the Second World War, there was a net underneath the Halifax Harbor for defense systems for in case of submarines when the Nazis would come try to shoot through. Some Nazis actually got through the Halifax Harbor defense systems. They would stick their scope out and look at the city from underneath the harbor. Why don't you turn to the federal government and have military defense net systems underneath the Halifax Harbor blocking submarine vessels they may come into the Halifax Harbor illegally? Now here's the thing. What you need to be doing, including the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is setting up military defense systems across at the Halifax Harbor entrance, the Cape Breton, all around there, military defense systems, including Pictou County, in case if the Americans try to invade, if you could turn to King Charles' request military defense systems, like NATO, we're part of NATO, NATO's supposed to be involved because Canada's part of NATO, you need to have the defense systems blocking the American Navy from entering the Halifax Harbor before they even try to evade, so we're safe. Because what will happen is if you do not defend or set up a military defense systems around the Halifax Harbor, the Americans are going to try to block that off. So when Britain and all these countries come over to fight for us, they're going to have that harbor blocked off because you didn't do your job like the Prime Minister of putting security measures in place just in case, if you know what I mean. It'd be good if the UK and NATO has the Halifax Harbor guarded. No cruise ships goes in unidentified. You could have a little docking place here in front of the Halifax Harbor opening. These ships going to be tracked to see who they are. If there's anybody that's not supposed to be here, they're denied. You're going back home. That'd be a good thing to have to protect Nova Scotia. You know what I mean? What else do we have here? The government of Nova Scotia. I want to tell you something, Tim. Over the years, I was not happy in what I've seen. The people of Nova Scotia, who they've been electing to represent them, I was not happy with it at all. In fact, I was embarrassed. I was pretty pissed off on the people who've been getting elected because they should have been elected in the first place. Here's our people getting elected who should have been elected. They're taking pride in stuff that they did not accomplish. I had my Canada flag outside here today. It was a snowstorm, but we had it out. Hope for showing our support. But here's the thing. I'm not happy in the government who we've been electing because they only been running for office for the benefit of themselves and not the benefit of the people of Nova Scotia. How's it supposed to be in the first place? I'm not voting. See, Tim, I never voted for your government this past provincial election here that took place in November because I wasn't voting for that dickhead there, Kent Smith. I can't stand him. I don't like him. Two-faced is exactly what he is. It's a good thing, he didn't come on my property because he would have got mighty ugly if he would have came on my property looking for support. It's a good thing he stayed off. I had a lawyer go after Kent Smith. I don't like him. It's a good thing he didn't come back because my lawyer went after him because basically we're suing you. We're suing the shit out of you next time. I don't care, Kent, if you don't like it or not. We're suing the shit out of you. I don't like you. I never will. You're a two-faced. You're a sneak. You're everything what a failed politician is. And he's everything what I feared. People like that should never have been in, and that's why I didn't vote for your government, because we're not voting for your government with that affiliated with it. Mental health. Here's the thing. Mental health. We're still sending people with mental health illnesses to prison when they shouldn't be. They should be based, housed, looked after at the Nova Scotia East Coast Psychiatric Forensic Hospital. In Burnside, I believe they got another forensic hospital in Truro, and is there one in Cape Breton? But anyways, the bottom line is there's not too many of them. And over the years, I've been going to your government, and you refuse to respond to it. I said, Tim, why is this government, why is this province allowing the courts to send mentally ill people to prison who's not criminally responsible because your government doesn't want to do the right thing but needs to be done, because all other provincial governments have failed these people so many times it's unreal, because they're running for the benefit of themselves. Why aren't we not having a law in place that makes it criminal, prohibited, unconstitutional, inhumane for sending a mentally ill person to prison? Why not hold proud prosecution, hold the judge responsible, hold the courts responsible, and hold the mental health system responsible for letting these people slide through the wrong doors and end up in jail? And top it off, there's mental illnesses out in the community. They're not even labeled as a mental illness when they should be. I'll name one right off the bat right now. Epilepsy. Most people say, well, epilepsy is a physical disability. You know, you black out, you have a seizure and all this stuff. Shut up. When you hear people say that, trust me when I tell you this, tell them to shut up. This is what happens with people with epilepsy. I had it. I know how it happens. There's more to epilepsy than just falling down, taking a seizure. You have personality issues. You have all decisions. You can't make a decision responsibly at times, is what you should be. People with epilepsy, what happens? This is what happens when they have a seizure, when they wake up. When they're in a seizure, when they're passed out, they're sound asleep. They're sound asleep. That's the real answer. They're sound asleep. It's just like when you're in bed at night, when you're dreaming, you know, in your nice little world, wherever you're at, you're dreaming. That's what it's like when you're when you're having a seizure. When you wake up, what happens when you wake up? Your mind is fully active as if nothing happened, but your body is in a vegetated state. So when time goes by, when you have a seizure and you wake up, hours seems like minutes. For the people watching these people coming out of a seizure, minutes is hours, and hours is a very long time. For the person who had the seizure when they're waking up, like I said, hours is seconds to them. When they come around, their body will start coming around. So like 2-3 hours later, your arms will start recovering. You know, your legs will come back, and you know you have your sense of touch, feeling, hearing, sight. It's all there, but their brain shut the body down. That's what it's like having a seizure. The symptoms of having an epileptic seizure, besides, like I said, personality disorders, making reasonable making decisions. But people, when they're about to have a seizure, some people get up, walk around. I used to get up, walk around. I was out cold. I was out dreaming. You know, people thought I was up. No, Adam knows what he's doing. Hell, he does. 10 minutes later, 10 minutes, probably 2 minutes, and on the ground, you're doing your thing. You wake up 10 minutes later, and you're good to go. But that's what happens with a seizure. Now, the other side effects with epilepsy is some people people before they have a seizures, they'll use the washroom in their pants because this part of the brain that sends the signal saying you got to go to the washroom is not working. I did it myself. No, people laugh at it. Oh, yeah, whatever. And they'll say, well, how could that happen? That part of the brain that sends the signal saying you got to go to the washroom does not work. So epilepsy should be labeled as a mental illness, because it is. But the ignorance of the Nova Scotia government, this is the reason why I'm not supporting this province. It's because of the corrupt ignorance of this province and the government that the people of Nova Scotia are repeatedly voting in, and they're not there for the better of the province. They're there for the better of themselves so they can gain a wealthy pension. Now here's the other thing I got. My grandfather, he's a Second World War veteran. He died in March of 1996. He fought for you people. And when he needed help, when his body was no longer functioning because of his age, he lost his leg because from the war. He came home, his leg was all right, but over time, his leg had been amputated because of damage done. He was deaf in one ear, explosions, bombs going off, and all that craziness. He fought for you. And when he needed to be placed in the Camp Hill Hospital in Halifax, this is what happened. The government was doing very little to put him in that hospital where he needed to be. In fact, we had to sue the federal government to get him in, and we got him in successfully. The judge made sure he got in there, and he did. I mean, he didn't want to go there because, he wanted to be home like most people would be. Who wants to be in a hospital when you can be at home enjoying yourself? But he could no longer look after himself. And not only that, he had family members that didn't have the time to do it because they had their own personal stuff to deal with. So guess what? He was left with no choice but to go to the Camp Hill Hospital. Our military war veterans are still being disrespected when they shouldn't be, and that is why I'm not defending this province. I mean, you can go there and make yourself right stupid, look yourself right foolish, try to fool all these Nova Scotians, saying that I'm defending Nova Scotia and all this stuff. I don't believe you. I respect you, Tim Houston. You hear what I'm saying, Tim? I respect you as a premier, but I'm not voting for that piece of crap over there, that Kent Smith. My grandfather's a war veteran. He fought for my right to speak up. He fought for our way of life. To have Kent Smith, that piece of shit, excuse my language, but I don't respect him. When I turned to my MLA, Kent Smith, for health care, because this province can't do it at a reasonable rate. 6 years I've been waiting on the waiting list for a surgeon. 6 years. I had a massive lump on my shoulder, and it was pushing down in my muscles to the point it was posing a risk. Kent Smith at first started it all right. He said, I need you to come in and sign a waiver for my health, for me to have access to your, for whatever, health files, whatever, or speak to the right people on your behalf. All right. So he told me I'd come back to my office whenever, said, I'm going to get you to, he wanted me to come back and sign these papers, because at the time when I first met him on a scheduled appointment the first time, he didn't have it on him. He just didn't have it. He had to, whatever. He had to go print them off or whatever the case may be. So he said, have him come back at a later date. My secretary would call you and come down. All right. So she called me. They came down, signed it. All right. Didn't she pick up the phone and call the RCMP, which my lawyer interacted with, saying that I got this Adam guy at my office, and I don't know why he's here, he's talking about signing papers, and, and Kent Smith told me to go back and sign a waiver because he didn't have it ready for him in his office when I was there at our scheduled meeting. So his secretary, what's her name? Kelly Corkley, which I don't like. Picked up the phone, called this friggin' idiot there. What's his name? Ian Burke. So I went to my lawyer. He said, Adam, first of all, I'm going to ask you, don't contact this Mr. Burke anymore. Secondly, I'm going to ask you, don't contact Kent Smith anymore, your MLA. And thirdly, I'm going to ask you not to contact that Kelly Corkley no more. And fourthly, I'm going to ask you, don't go to Kent Smith's office no matter what. Because he said, he's trying to get you on a charge. He's trying to cause trouble. You went to him when this cop showed up for no good reason. It made no sense. You tried to work it out with him, and he wouldn't answer his phone. He said, Adam, I've seen this a million times. This is a complete idiot. He said, if Kent, he said, Adam, I'm going to tell you something. The police hand out property protection orders, even though when they're not even needed. They're actually being abused by the law. The law itself is being abused when it's not supposed to be. He said, Adam, property protection orders, they hand that out all the time. And he said, if we went to court, challenge that property protection order, I said, there's a good high chance that Kent's going to lose the case. He said, I'm going to ask you not to go back to that man's office ever again. He said, I'll build a file. If you want to sue him, we'll sue him. And he said, it's going to be $5,000 up front. That's the retainer for a lawyer. And that's not the legal fees. That's just the lawsuit itself. And when that's into effect, he said, Kent Smith is not going to come around you within 10 feet ever again because that's the last thing that he wants as an MLA against him, a lawyer with a file on him. And that's what happened. And basically, my lawyer said, if you see him in the community, if he says hi and all this stuff, even if he even tries to engage you, walk away. Go on as if he's not there. He said, if he comes up to you, if there's one of those spots you can't avoid him, tell him to get out of your sight. Get out of my sight right now. He said, and if he doesn't leave, we'll charge him. He said, actually, it's a criminal harassment charge. Because he said, the police, this corporate security, they're known for exercising the law when it's not even needed. They abuse the law, like I said, these property protection orders, when they're not even needed. And he said, Adam, you went there on a scheduled appointment. Everything was the way it's supposed to be. For some reason, his secretary here is making it get a little funny there. He said, trust me when I tell you this. Stay away from him. It's a poor way to do business. I heard from the former NDP leader at the time, Gary Burrell, the Nova Scotia Liberal Party. They all laughed Kent Smith right out the door. I heard from the community. He's not liked. Well, here's November of 2024. He got reelected. He targets a certain group of people that don't know their politics or the PC party members. They'll go to that, but people like you, they don't like him. So when that net starts to shrink, he's done. But he said, Adam, I don't think you're going to hear from Kent Smith ever again. And guess what? I did. And that's why we're not helping you in this battle with Donald Trump. I'll work with the Prime Minister. I'll work with the federal government, but I'm not helping you out. So my question to you, my advice to you is what I just said in this video. No good paying jobs in Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia's failing healthcare, which is at its all-time high. Did you turn to King Charles? Likely not. That's the first thing you should have did right off the bat. Never mind arguing with this President Trump, because when it comes to the King Charles looking at Donald Trump saying, who are you? And that's exactly what Donald Trump did to you guys. But you're not smart enough to figure out, no, wait a minute here. Well, we're going to talk with Donald Trump, the Halifax Harbor Defense Net for Pictou County, Cape Breton. You could turn to King Charles, like I said before. Have military defend and guard the Halifax Harbor with defense nets and military war vessels. Pictou County Harbor, another one. Cape Breton, another one. Mental health care, we talked about it. Nova Scotia, still sending mentally ill people to jail. Still allowing the courts, the Crown prosecution, to send mentally ill people to jail when they shouldn't be. In fact, they should be illegal. The Nova Scotia government, people getting elected, they shouldn't have been elected, because then they're actually posing a risk to the people of Nova Scotia and their livelihoods. And I talked about a massive story about Kent Smith, that idiot. So that's a massive concern. And I talked about my grandfather being a war veteran, how we fought to get him in the Camp Hill Hospital when we shouldn't have. And look how our military war veterans are being treated by our government. They're not even looked after. So that's my thing, what I got to say about Nova Scotia and you as a Premier Tim. So that's that. But I'm not helping you defend this province because it doesn't matter. See, if you vote you out, you know what's going to happen? Some other idiot's going to come and do an even worse job. Because here's the thing. Look at the setup of the political leaders that was involved in the last election. Nobody was interested in them. Zach Churchill, Claudia Chandler. Claudia Chandler is the leader of the opposition, taking pride because the Liberal Party had a complete fool leading their party when it should have been Sean Fraser right off the bat. And that's why he didn't get in. And the NDP, if they want to get in power, they might want to pick up the phone and call Peter Stauffer in the Fall River and say, hey, Peter, you want to take over leadership for the Nova Scotia Liberal Party? Guarantee you the NDP will get in power right quick. But those are my concerns. But I will defend Canada at the national level, not at the provincial level. So that's my advice for you, and hopefully you'll take up my suggestions.